Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Dana Porter, and I'm the Public Affairs Manager for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Tonight's Wanna Go Hunting webinar is all about who can we learn from. Instructors and mentors can bring experience and depth of knowledge to your early hunts and may actually help shorten that learning curve and make it not quite as steep. This evening, our guests will cover the importance of seeking out mentor opportunities and their guidance. An important reminder, the DNR's Wanna Go Hunting webinar series is designed for those interested in learning about hunting, fishing, and trapping. Each episode features guest speakers sharing their experiences, getting started with hunting, and any common challenges that pop up in the sport. So with that, I will turn things over to tonight's host, Bob Knack, the DNR's Recruitment, Retention, and Reactivation Team Supervisor. Bob?
Great, thanks, Dana. Happy to be here with everybody tonight for the final webinar in our Wanna Go Hunting series. For those of you that have been joining us each month when we've done these series, if you remember, we learned about where to start with hunting, and these webinars are intended for people that have maybe just trying hunting a thought and you haven't taken that first step. So we've provided some useful information to you over the last few months. We've learned what can we hunt here in Wisconsin, where can we go hunting. Last webinar we talked about where can I practice shooting, and tonight we're going to talk about who can we learn from, and it's all about finding a mentor. And we all have come from different places in our lives, and it's always helpful to learn from somebody with experience. And so I'm excited to be joining you tonight, and we have a great couple of guests with us. If you go to the next slide. Tonight we'll be joined by John Motovilov, who is the Pheasants Forever R3 coordinator. He's part of our R3 team here in Wisconsin and is responsible for putting on a number of different programs around the state. We'll also hear from Todd Schaller with the Wisconsin Waterfowl Association, and that organization and Todd himself are very passionate about hunting in general, and is going to share some of his experience about finding a mentor as well. And so we'll hear from them a little bit later. Right now, I just have a short couple slides that I'm going to go over with you on the topic. Go to the next slide. So I thought it would be important to talk about a hunting mentor versus an instructor. And we've learned through social science that's been conducted across the country that there is a difference and people are paying attention to it. Oftentimes we talk about mentored hunting opportunities, or you're going to, as part of this program, here's your hunting mentor. And what we've learned is that people really are more sensitive to that term mentor, and it has a much deeper meaning for them, in that a mentor is somebody that you know well and trust and look up to. And in many cases, the programs that people might participate in that occur maybe over a weekend really isn't enough time for that person to be called their mentor. And so we're cautious with how we use that word, and that's how we'll be referring it to tonight. The term mentor is more of a longer term relationship that develops over time through repeated contacts. An instructor is somebody that is teaching you something, and that could come in the shape of a hunter education program instructor or a learn to hunt instructor. And so we thought it made sense just to kind of provide those definitions here. Next slide. So real quickly, the benefits of having a mentor. And I think much of what we're going to talk about tonight is thinking from the aspect of a young adult developing a relationship with a mentor. Of course, when you're young, you can have mentors as well, and oftentimes that comes in the shape of friends and family members. But when you're thinking about searching out a mentor, finding somebody to show you the ropes, what are some of those benefits? And first one is saving time and money. And what I mean by that is you can learn on your own, and that's often a really great way to learn from your experiences. However, that takes time to do that. And in the case of hunting, our hunting seasons only occur in the fall once a year. And so if you make a mistake this fall, you might be waiting until next fall before you can try something a little bit different. So having a mentor who's been there, done that, made those mistakes, and in communication with them, they can save you some time from making the same mistakes that they did. And on the same respect, money, when it comes to equipment. You might be looking at the latest and greatest equipment that's out there. And again, an experienced hunter might be able to tell you, hey, that's probably not worth your money, or here's a good way to save some money. And so again, that experience really comes in handy. Fact checking is another great benefit of having a mentor. And online there is all kinds of information that out there on any topic that you're interested in, including videos and forums and all kinds of things where you can get information. However, sometimes it's information overload. And what do I believe? And this person says this works, and this person says that works, and who do I believe? And again, having somebody that you know and trust that you can go to and even share, hey, I read this, what do you think? It's a nice way to have them help fact check some of the things you might be reading or seeing. And then a reassuring voice. And I'm reflecting back a little bit on some recent experience I've had with somebody that's mentoring me and my family with a dog that we're using for raccoon hunting. We're out there, we see things, we observe things, we analyze things, and you're trying to figure it out. And that's one of the cool things about hunting, right? You learn and adjust. But am I adjusting in the right way? And it's always great to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. Hey, I saw this, I'm thinking about trying this. What do you think? My dog is doing this. Why is the dog doing this? Have you ever seen this before? Again, reassuring voice to put you at ease with whatever you might be thinking about at that time, or if you're considering training your dog, some of the approaches you might be using with your dog as well. So just nice to have somebody to talk to. And in many cases, they may not be hunting with you in the field, but you're texting with them, you're communicating with them, and then you're going and applying what they've taught you in the field. So these are just a couple real quick ones. I'm sure there's many more than this. Next slide. And finding a mentor. How do I find a mentor? And we're going to get into this when we start talking with our guest panelists. But a few really kind of quick and easy places to look are nonprofit organizations. And you're going to hear from John with Pheasants Forever and Todd with the Wisconsin Waterfowl Association. There's many organizations that put on programs and events. And the most popular one here in Wisconsin for hunting is our Learn to Hunt program. And you can apply that program to whatever species that you're intending to pursue. So learn to hunt deer, learn to hunt turkeys. Through those programs, you're often paired with a hunting, and I'll use hunting instructor in this case because you're just developing that relationship. But it also gives you the opportunity to network and get to know people that are like-minded, similar interests to you, and want to help you. And so these programs are really great opportunities to meet people. And oftentimes people that participate in one program, say it's for deer, where can I sign up next? What's the next program? And they want to go to pheasants and the waterfowl. And again, in each program that you participate in, you're learning something and you're getting to meet people. And it's a great community to be in, the hunting community. And I've found people that are very willing to help new people out. There are a couple organizations that really focus on mentoring, including having it in their title. So the Kids and Mentors Outdoors program here in Wisconsin is also referred to as CAMO. And there's a program that I'm familiar with that is really focused on kids, but these are kids that do not have a parent or a mentor of their own within their social group. And so this is a great organization of well-minded people that connect with those kids and take them out on multiple occasions. So it's not a one and done thing, and really does develop into being more of that outdoor mentor. The other one that is relatively new is the Hunt in Common, and their focus is really on mentoring, and in many cases that's adults. And so I would encourage you to check those out online. There are web pages there if you're interested to learn a little bit more about them. But yeah, really neat groups that are really focused on this. Of course, hunter safety education course, we encourage everybody that is thinking about hunting at some point to go through a hunter ed course, and you'll meet people there as well, including your safety instructors, DNR staff. And again, you know, if you're looking for somebody to, in the DNR, I know I've seen requests from people that are looking for mentors. And so you can reach out to us. We'll provide our contact information at the end of the presentation here. And we know enough people around the state, probably in your local area, that we could help you connect as well. And friends and family members. And again, don't be shy about asking or expressing your interest in giving it a try. And in often cases, it does come from within your family group or your you know, friends that you're, you know, making at work or at school or wherever you might be. And I know that in many cases, that's where that mentorship occurs. And another really popular opportunity is as you meet your, you know, significant others. I know in many cases there's, you know, either the male or the female has hunted, and as young people they meet and start doing stuff together, and oftentimes it includes hunting, and many of those young adults that maybe didn't grow up hunting or weren't exposed to hunting as a child, it lights a fire in them, and it's really neat to see it, and they really get all into it as they get older. So for some people it's there and some people it's not, but it's really neat to see. So next slide. Yeah, so as I mentioned, before we get on to our guest panelists here, here's some contact information for myself and Emily Eel, our hunting and shooting sports program specialist. We're very willing to help anybody out, find a mentor, or answer any questions you might have about any of the programs that we offer. So with that, thank you very much. I think we'll move on to our guest panelists tonight. And guys, I think I'm going to give you a minute or two to introduce yourself, and then I got a couple of questions that we can talk through. So John, I'm looking at you. Why don't we start with you? Want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks very much, Bob. My name is John Motovilov, and I have this kind of cumbersome title called R3 Coordinator for Pheasants Forever. And that means recruitment, retention, and reactivation of hunters, anglers, and shooting sports enthusiasts. But the short version of that is we help people get in the woods, and we help people stay in the woods. And just as Bob said, when my info flashes on the screen, feel free to reach out to me as well if you have any other questions. But that's my job. I've got a great job, and I feel very lucky to be able to help get people into the outdoors.
Great. Yeah, thanks, John. And Todd, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. My name is Todd Schaller. I'm a volunteer with the Wisconsin Waterfowl Association. I've been with them for about 3 years, and the reason I joined that organization was to stay involved in conservation type topics and issues. I retired 3 years ago from the Department of Natural Resources as a conservation warden, or the chief conservation warden, and working with the Wisconsin Waterfowl Association allows me to stay engaged and connected to conservation. And part of that, a facet of that, is the R3 mentor, learn to hunt type conversation. So appreciate the opportunity to be involved.
Great. Thanks, Todd. And yeah, as you can tell, we got very passionate people with us tonight, and we're fortunate to have you both. So thank you again for taking some time to be with us this evening. So why don't we just talk a little bit about your hunting experience, and specifically as it relates to who mentored you, and kind of what was your experience like? And we're all different. I know for me, my dad took me hunting when I was a kid, and you know, I was attracted by the use of beagles for rabbit hunting, and including dogs into the situation. And that's something that we're using. My wife and I are applying with our kids as well. So anyway, John, why don't you go ahead and just talk a little bit about how you got started hunting, and maybe more specifically, who your mentor was.
Yeah, no, thanks, Bob. Slightly different story. I grew up fishing, but I did not grow up hunting. And it wasn't until I moved to Wisconsin in 1990, long time ago, not a long time ago, 30 years, 30 some years for graduate school, that I started hunting. And the way that story got started was I was working as a graduate assistant on campus, and I had forgotten my lunch one day. And my boss said, "Well, here, have some of this." And and I was like, "What is this?" And it was widgeon breast cooked in an orange sauce. And I had never had anything that tasted like that. And I just kind of threw myself on his mercies. And he's patient, wonderful older gentleman. Well, then probably about my age now. And we palled around for about 30 years or so until he aged out of the sport. But I kind of got into it by trying it, and then kind of going down the whole route of duck hunting, small game hunting, deer hunting, dogs, boats, trips to North Dakota. And as you say, just got all in, and it became really, apart from my my marriage, my all-consuming passion. So I was really lucky to have a wonderful mentor, and he kicked me off, and there are a couple of other people around the edges that helped as well. But just one gentleman in particular, Steve Miller, kudos to him.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, John. That's a really good story. We all have different starts in this. And what about you, Todd? Can you want to share a little bit of your experience with who your mentor was?
Sure. Similar to you, Bob. I mean, I grew up in a hunting family and really a hunting community. It was a fairly small town. So just hunting was part of the fiber within that area. And my father, was clearly my biggest mentor and long-term mentor, in passing on the interest in all types of hunting. But I also think it's important to recognize that you kind of have satellite mentors as you develop and learn. And I hunted waterfowl with my dad, and that was fun. But as I started to hunt with other folks who waterfowl hunted, you start to kind of cling on to those who are really good at it or have a lot of experience, and start to kind of ask questions and develop that kind of that mentor relationship, not as a hunting as whole, but within the satellites or subs of hunting. And I think that's something to consider for the listeners, is you might have a mentor who you lean on heavy for the hunting as a whole, but if you want to explore waterfowl hunting or turkey hunting, you might create a second mentor or somebody else you can lean on to learn from and connect with.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Todd. And I was thinking about that as well. As if you choose to hunt and you start hunting, you might want to explore different things. And so you start out with maybe squirrel hunting or rabbit hunting, and now I want to try this, and now I want to try that. And it might happen as you're older and more experienced hunter. So it can happen at any age. And again, the example I use, I've been hunting since I was 12 years old, and just, I don't know, the last 5 years or so, decided let's do some more raccoon hunting. And so it opened up a whole new outdoor experience for me and my family. And we're being mentored even at my age. So yeah, it's kind of fun to explore that with those opportunities with other people. We've talked about the organizations, and I had it on the slide, that provide learn to hunt programs, and maybe some opportunities for people to connect with mentors there. But do you guys have any other ideas for where somebody could find a mentor that, in today's day and age, with a lot of people living in urban areas, and maybe not having that connection to land, these new hunters are looking for people to take them hunting. And so, John, do you have any thoughts on recommendations where people can look to find a mentor if they are looking for one?
I do, and it's a little bit obvious, but I think it's worth saying. So if folks go to the DNR website and then go to the Learn to Hunt page, you'll see a listing of hunts that we have going on this fall. And that's a really oftentimes a very good place to start, because you get quality mentorship, you get people who've done the scouting, and quite possibly the person who mentored you, if you like that person, for that squirrel hunt or deer hunt or waterfowl hunt, can become a long-term mentor, or will have in his or her circle other contacts. So one place is starting by taking a Learn to Hunt course. And then there are definitely affinity groups out there that have kind of niche mentoring opportunities. And here I'm thinking of like Artemis Sportswomen, for really a powerful mentoring community for women in hunting. And there's a Color in the Outdoors is another one in Wisconsin. And Hunters of Color is another one that's starting to establish a presence in Wisconsin, as well as backcountry hunters and anglers, as well. And then of course my employer, Pheasants Forever, go ahead and look at if you go on that site and find your local chapter, we have a lot of very active chapters around the state, and we are running some Learn to Hunts. So I would say those organizations and the DNR, and then don't be afraid to reach out within your social network, whether that's your church, your neighbors, your family. And I think it's the rare hunter who, if asked, will you take me hunting, will say no. Most of them will say yes, or I know someone who can do it. So I think, and really almost be flattered to do it. So I would say don't also neglect your social networks. And if there's a hunter in your network, that could be a very good place to start, because that person probably has similar beliefs and similar kind of upbringing and comfort level that you might have. So I wouldn't neglect that either.
Yeah, those are good suggestions, John. Todd, anything else to add to that?
I think the only thing I would add is I think we often talk about the big organizations, NWTF, WWA, Pheasants, but there are a lot of local conservation organizations potentially within your community, and I would explore that as an option. There's local shooting clubs, local rod and gun clubs, local fishing clubs, sports clubs, who are folks maybe within your community, and that might be a connection that you can do on the local level. That way you may have they might be close to you, it might be within your hometown or an easy drive. So in addition to what's been covered, I would encourage folks to explore that local conservation organization, that might be in their backyard.
Yeah, no, that's a good suggestion too, Todd. One other thing that I was thinking about was, again, I mentioned that mentoring doesn't necessarily always mean going hunting in the field with them. We do a lot of communication these days on our smartphones and on our laptops, and sometimes that goes just as far in the communication there as it does being with that person out in the field. And so social media is a great way to meet with people. Of course, you need to be careful with who you're chatting with, but I've had that experience too, where I've seen somebody online and it looks like they're having fun doing what they're doing. And, if you're so bold to drop them a note, you never know where that'll go. And so again, you want to use caution with that, but there's lots of people out there that enjoy sharing their pictures and telling their stories about what they're doing, and just want to see that those opportunities passed on to the next generation. So no, those are good. Those are good. So if somebody's looking for a mentor, what kind of qualities would you suggest? Of course, you want to get along with them, right? So you're probably looking for somebody that you can relate to. But John, is there any other, or maybe we'll go with Todd. We'll give you the first crack at it, Todd, so you're not following John all the time. Todd, any specific qualities that you'd recommend looking for in a mentor?
I think we touched on it earlier. It needs to be somebody you can actually connect with, kind of, and have similar likes or interests in your values. And maybe that's a little too deep, but that they kind of align up that way. And I think that's why working through your social groups or family and friends or career or jobs, that's a good avenue to kind of get somebody who has similar interest and somebody you already know. So I think that's a key piece of it. I'll just set it up for John, but it's not always the most experienced or the best hunter that makes the best mentor. And I'll let John run from there.
Thanks, Todd, for calling in that mallard hovering right over the decoys, almost motionless there. I appreciate that, my friend. So what I've found kind of interestingly is that I've been involved with the Hunt for Food and Learn to Hunt program in various ways for about 10 years. And we've had sometimes where people who've gone through the program and taken classes in the early days have kind of fledged and gone on their own. They've kind of come back to me or come back and said, hey, I'd like to give back. And some of those folks have made the best mentors because they really understand what it's like to be starting out in this. I mean, they were just that person a few years ago. And so I think that very interestingly, kind of new hunters can sometimes make really, really good mentors. Not to say, veterans can't, but I think what it is about at the heart is it's definitely about sharing information, but it's about communication and it's about comfort. And there has to be that sort of comfort and bond there. Look, not everybody kind of lines up the same way. But I think that it's important to have that kind of vibe, that kind of really good communication. And I think a good mentor, is it has to be very sensitive to those things about communicating and about like checking in. Are you freezing your behind off? Are you having a good time? Do you want to stay out longer? And so it's sort of, I think a good mentor, it has to be at the very least a good communicator. So I think that is a key quality, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in thinking about Todd's comments on somebody who lines with your interests that you can relate to, do you guys have any suggestions for new hunters that might maybe feel uncomfortable with something they're doing with that mentor in the field? And of course, we all know that, when you're out hunting, oftentimes you're alone and you have to be responsible for your actions. And so if they're not comfortable in a situation with a mentor for whatever situation they're in while they're hunting, do you have any advice for how to handle that?
Well,
Todd, I'll ask you that.
I think picking your hunting partner is very important, and so picking your mentor is very important. There, honestly, I've hunted with people who, don't hunt safely in a way that you should. And after a time or two of me explaining my feelings, if their actions don't change, I just quit hunting with them. And I think it's almost the same for a mentor. If your experience doesn't align with what you want to do, just simply step away from that mentor, student relationship and just say, hey, this isn't going to work out. Sorry for that. And I think that's, and then, work on finding one that does align with you. And I think that would be my recommendation. And because it is important that you pick your hunting partners, your mentors, thoughtfully, and that you do align. Because if you don't, you're just always going to have that mental battle of what's going on and what your experience is, and that takes away from it.
Yeah. And a big part, I may have said in my opening comments, a big part of hunting is who you're doing it with. It's not whether you shot a bunch of ducks that day or a turkey or whatever you were trying to hunt. It's that experience of who you're sharing that day with, who you're with when you're out in the field, and what you do. And if you have fun with that person, you're going to look forward to doing that again and again and again, whether you harvest game or not. It really, kind of makes it all encompassing. So, John, did you have anything more to add to that kind of a situation?
Yeah, one thing that I think Todd was kind of suggesting is just that too. I think that the mentee and the mentor, there has to be that openness since it is hunting and it is potentially dangerous. Both have to be open to being corrected too. So and I think it's a bad sign if either one doesn't want to be corrected. So just
Right.
to be able to have that understanding with the person, hey, if my gun barrel starts waving around, you call me on it, and I think it's a kind of a good litmus test. If a person doesn't want to be called on that, you might not want to hunt with that person.
Sure. Yep. Good
And yeah, and trust your gut too. If something just sort of doesn't gel, doesn't feel right, there are other mentors out there, and they're really, and they're genuinely are. You may have to do a little bit of looking, but there are people out there who want to help.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, when your head hits the pillow, you're responsible for your actions in that day. And so,
Yep.
Yep. Those are good. That's good advice. If somebody's gonna, maybe a question for Todd again, if somebody's gonna find a new mentor, what should they expect from that mentor? For example, should they be providing them equipment? How much time, and I know every situation is different depending on who the mentor is and how you know them, but Todd, any thoughts on kind of what to expect from a mentor?
But I think, it really does vary, as you touched on. I think the biggest thing is early on in that conversation is talking with the mentor to kind of lay out what your expectations are. Hey, I'm interested in hunting. I have never hunted. I have no gear. I don't know point A about hunting. Can you help me? Versus, hey, I've hunted as a young person. I have a shotgun. I do a lot of outdoor activities, so I have a bunch of clothes. So I think it's just that first conversation between the mentor and the mentee is really important, and kind of laying that realistic expectations out, and that way the mentor understands what they're committed to and in for, and the mentee has a isn't getting shortcutted or expecting one thing and get another. I think that first conversation really should kind of lay out that groundwork between the two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good suggestion, Todd. John, anything more to add to that?
Yeah, it's funny. And it's a strange kind of analogy here, but it's a little bit, even though this is not a romantic relationship, I want to be clear on that, but it's a little bit like matchmaking and compatibility. And so, like, I think that meeting in a neutral spot is probably good at first, maybe even having a meal with the person. And then, maybe you don't make your first trip a weekend trip to Iowa to go pheasant hunting. Maybe you just, do a squirrel hunt, or maybe you go to Cabela's and look at firearms or something, but sort of like a gradual process and getting to know each other and just kind of feel it out and, start slow. And then, I think both parties will know, and it's sort of probably an organic kind of thing where you can, what does that person want? And do you have that to give, and it's interesting. I have the whole gradation. There are people that I go out with that are sort of like co-equals and we hunt. And then there are people that I go out where, it's a little bit of mentoring, but kind of companions. Then sometimes it's a whole lot of mentoring. And it really is almost a continuum too, and maybe too, this person that starts as a mentor, as a mentee, becomes a companion, becomes someone that's in your fold. So it's a kind of a dynamic thing too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A couple of things that came to mind. I think Todd maybe hit on them, but be upfront about your time commitment, right? If you're an adult and you're working and you're busy and whatever, don't lead your mentor to believe that you're going to be able to hunt every weekend. So, be upfront, and same from the mentor. How much time can you commit to this? And then along with that, communication, right? Communication is key. Make sure you're open and honest, and everybody's on the same page. So yeah, no, those are good advices for people that are maybe going to be hunting with a mentor they don't know so well. Thinking about mentoring today, and we've already covered some of the different ways that people mentor or can mentor. It's certainly changed from years ago. And I was wondering if you guys care to share any thoughts on how it's changed and if it's become more difficult or easier to do. Todd, why don't we go to you for that if you want to share some thoughts?
Sure. I mean, I think it's become easier, and I think the reason it is because our communication technology is so much easier than it was. You know, I mentor a fairly young. I mean, he came from a little bit of a hunting background, but I introduced him to some new activity, and you know, our ability just to text back and forth. You know, when maybe he's hunting and he has a question, or he's hunting and he had a bad day, and you know, it happened this spring. He had a turkey he wasn't able to harvest and wasn't able to get a shot, and there was a whole string of texts, you know, between him and I to kind of talk through that, and you know, in that case, encouraged him to stay with it, and eventually, you know, another turkey came and he had an opportunity. So, you know, the ability to text back and forth and share experiences or ask questions. And I just finished with a learn to hunt this past weekend for waterfowl for you know, late entry into hunting adults. And I gave every one of my techs phone number and said, hey, questions come up, just ask. I mean, you know, they have the foundation to kind of hunt on their own at this point because of some of their experiences. But you know, they're going to come across situations where they don't know what to do. And, you know, the ability to text is just so nice. You can text pictures, you can text topography, maps, you know, places to try. It's amazing what we can do nowadays that we couldn't do, you know, 10 years ago. Yeah.
You can really almost mentor without being there. I mean, honestly, unless you need to talk them through it kind of thing. But my daughter and I had a similar experience during the youth hunt. She's 14, so she wanted to sit by herself, and she was playing it all cool, like, yeah, I got this. I've been hunting for years. But when she started seeing deer, then the text came, and what do I do? And what about this? And so, yeah, it was, I could totally relate to that, Todd. John, do you have any thoughts on how things have changed, and is it easier, or maybe there's some more challenges these days?
Well, no, a lot of what Todd said resonated with me, but it made me think of a story, because like when it was very like cut and dried when I'd go duck hunting, it was principally duck hunting with these guys. It was other stuff, but you know, you'd meet at a certain place and you had to be there, like whatever they said, you had to be there early. You know, you had to be there earlier than that, and they'd always beat me. They'd always get there earlier still. But it was very like, it was more formal, you know, and then we'd go on the trip and then go on our duck hunting and stuff. But you know, were not phone guys, you know, they were a generation older. And so like all the mentoring took place in the duck blind, or, you know, when we were driving there, or, you know, plucking the birds afterwards. But here, like I just, as Todd was saying, like, you know, folks that I've mentored or have taken my classes, I just sort of give them my number. And a lot of times I think it's like, it's become easier to sort of text across, like, you know, is it legal to harvest this? Or I'm at Cabela's, what kind of shot do I get? Or just a whole bunch of things, you know. And I think that as these technologies evolve, the opportunities to mentor, as you say, become almost like you don't even necessarily, you know, you could just virtually mentor somebody. So lots of good opportunities. And I think, you know, I think with boundaries there, sometimes too, I just generally tell people, you know, you can contact me till 10 at night or 8 in the morning, you know, between those 2 points, you know, not generally, unless it's like an emergency and you got a deer down. But yeah, it's really an interesting relationship, you know, that I've developed through texts and through Facebook and through email. And it's kind of fun, you know, it's neat. It's very, very fluid, really enjoyable. So yeah, it's really evolved, and I think for the better.
Yeah. No, I think we could all agree on that. So yeah, no, that's great. I think we're gonna wind it down here, and we'll ask Katie in a second here for questions. But I do have just one more thing that I think maybe I'll just cover, because we we have talked about the Learn to Hunt programs and the opportunity to network and learn there. And I just wanted to mention for people that maybe haven't checked it out, we do have a calendar of events on our Learn to Hunt webpage for the DNR. So if you go to the homepage and just type in Learn to Hunt, there'll be a link there that you can look at current classes. They do fill up quite quickly. In many cases, you know, the capacity for these classes, and John leads a lot of them. You know, it might be 15 or 20 people. And so they do fill up pretty quick, but if you can, we would encourage you to check those out. In many cases, all the equipment is provided. And so, you know, you essentially have to show up with a desire to learn, and in many cases they'll take it from there. So encourage you to check out those courses, and I think you'll find that you do one, and like I said before, you're maybe looking for the next one and John and Todd, we all know people that have taken multiple courses for all the different species just to learn, and then hopefully, you know, find a mentor or do it on their own from what they've learned. So check that out. Okay, Katie, did we have any questions that were typed? And we failed to mention that again at the beginning, but maybe some folks figured it out and typed in some questions.
Yeah, we've had some good conversation in the chat. We haven't had any questions in the chat itself, but one question that I think would be good for us to answer is just, you know, when you're getting started, is there any sort of special license for doing a mentored hunt, participating as a mentor, or even as a first-time hunter, if you're just wanting to get started on your own without a mentor too?
Does anybody want to jump on that?
Well, I mean, I'll touch on some of it. I think some of it, there's so many options. I think that the biggest thing is there's a suite of opportunities for somebody getting into hunting. As a first-time hunter, they can get some license discounts as a first-time purchaser. If they haven't taken hunter safety, they can explore the mentored hunting program and a mentored license where they're required to hunt with somebody else. So it depends upon their age too. So there's a lot of nuances to it, and I think that stresses the thing that we've been talking about is, you know, getting somebody who can bounce these questions off that are very specific to you, and kind of working your way through the options that, you know, as Bob said, maybe save you some money on the front end and say, hey, you're a brand new hunter, buy the first-time hunter license and get that discount. So I think you're kind of working your way through that and asking those questions at the start.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, no, I might just piggyback on that and say that mentored hunting is definitely an option if you do not have hunter safety. But I do view the hunter safety course as just a great learning value for the money. You know, whether or not you go on to hunt, you know, that knowledge about firearms and a lot of sort of attendant safety things, just really valuable life skills. And it's also a pass key to let you hunt, you know, to buy a license and then to go to other states or even Canada to buy a license. So right. I guess I just encourage folks, if they're at all curious, you can definitely go the mentored hunt option, but you end up, you know, giving yourself a lot more freedom if you get your hunter ed, and you will learn some really good valuable skills too. Yeah. So I guess that's, I'd plug that.
Yeah. And I just called up because I forgot the exact prices, but I called up the resident first-time buyer list here on the DNR webpage, and it looks like most of the licenses, whether gun deer, junior gun, archer, is $5. And where can you go somewhere and find some great entertainment for $5? Depending on what you're hunting, you may need to buy additional permits, but those are first-time buyer prices. And the other thing I'd mention too, with our Learn to Hunt programs, those are held outside of the normal hunting seasons. And so there, you know, you don't necessarily even have to have a license to participate in that, depending on when they're occurring. So, Katie, any other questions?
That was the only question that I saw come through here. So I think that's about it.
Okay, well, before I turn it back over to you, Katie, I'll just thank Todd and John for sharing your time with us tonight, sharing your knowledge and experience, and for your dedication to being mentors yourself. Very, very much appreciate your time, and to our listeners tonight and those that are going to watch this later. We hope this benefited you as well. And again, if you have any questions, you can see our contact information on the screen. Feel free to reach out to Emily or I, and we'll try to get you head in the right direction. So with that, Katie, I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys again for joining us tonight, everyone who is watching the live stream and everyone who may be watching this on replay. As Bob said, feel free to reach out directly via that contact information on the screen now. Or also feel free to send us a direct message on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, any social media platform. We will help get you in contact with Bob and his team, whether that is questions about regulations or just looking to find a mentor in your area to help you get started. Thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next time.